Good morning. If you're seeing me in the blue room, I'm Malcolm Nance, and this is Black Man Spy. I can't even tell if no, I think we're back to a WARCAST, but neck deep in a confusion cast, day 92. Thanks for attending this show. Boy, things certainly are different when you land from 33,000 feet and get back to the United States and can really start taking serious notes. It's almost like Iran and the United States said, Malcolm, that week you spent in Greenland is way too much time. We've been relatively nice. Why don't we give you 2.5 pages of notes going around the world? And to be quite honest, if I were to go through all these notes, this would be a 2-hour show today. So, good morning to all of you who are attending from around the world. Thanks a lot. Good to see you, DC and Baltimore and Austin, Texas. I'm glad you got to see me in air yesterday. I think it's amazing that I can actually broadcast from air. And Ireland. Hello, Luann. I love Ireland. Um, so, all of that being said, we are going to have a very dynamic day, not just because of the intricacies of the news, but we have some topics that we need to discuss on here. One thing I would like to do for many of you, I'd like to encourage you to share this podcast. We've actually, believe it or not, we've lost 3,000 followers since Trump announced the ceasefire. And of course, a lot of people say, oh, well, I don't need to hear about it now because the war is essentially over. Well, if last night was any indication, the war went pretty hot yesterday. And we've seen that happen a couple of times where we thought we were getting pauses in the action, and then boom, a massive amount of combat broke out. There have been 2 days of near nonstop combat in the Persian Gulf, and we're going to get into all the details of that. Yesterday, we talked about these preemptive defensive strikes the United States did on Iranian positions. I had heard about that the day before when I was on Mario Nawafal's show when they hit Bandari Jask, Sirik, Larak, Kishem, and Bandar Abbas. And it was exactly as we said. They saw something they didn't like. The U.S. Navy decided to preemptively attack, and they were using it as sort of a footstool stepping stone to make it clear that to the Iranians that, Trump isn't surrendering. He's very serious about this, and we'll bomb you back to the Stone Ages. That being said, it's starting to get a little bit out of hand. So before we get into all of that, Wajeeh, the gay lion, is here from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We were expecting to hear from Jacob Carspo. If anyone sees Jacob Carspo come up, please let me know so I can invite him in. And as a matter of fact, I can invite him in now, and we'll see if he shows up, because he has a very dynamic life going all over the place. So when he comes up, he will come up. Wow, I guess people must have heard about the fighting because it's been 6 minutes and we're almost at our 1,000-person threshold. Well, that means we better hurry up. Wajeeh, what kind of coffee mug do you have?
Just my regular.
Your regular mug. I don't have a silly hat today because I haven't been down in my man cave, but I do have my Royal National Lifeboat Institute hat because I love anyone that goes out onto the sea to save other people's lives. But I do have a new mug that we're sporting here today. I decided that the puffin mug needs to be a premium for some longtime follower, and I know a couple of you out there who've been out there, and I'm going to give that puffin mug away. But today I have a new Iceland mug. And for those of you who go, oh my God, that's the Nazi Sonnenrad. It is not. This is a runic navigation chart. So it is a symbol of the Vikings and Iceland. So for those of you like, oh my God, if you know what the Sonnenrad is, it was a symbol that was used by the Nazis, but it was also a Germanic, Scandinavian symbol used by the Vikings. But everything. The Nazis ruin all symbols, right? So that's what that is. First coffee. Mm. Watch, while I'm drinking coffee, can we take a look at oil? Because I looked at it this morning and it like boom, 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 bumped back up like a big dog, almost as if people had known this was going to happen, right? What do you got? I got West Texas Intermediate at 90. Oh, it went down just a bit this morning. I had it at 90.62 an hour ago, up $1.48. Brent North Sea crude was at 96.14. That's the $1.84 up. You've got it at 95.87. The difference is WT high was at 87 yesterday, and Brent was at 92, I think. The markets are still being suckered by the manipulation of the White House. Like clockwork, it goes like this, and we should start betting on it. Friday afternoon, they start talking tough. And then Saturday or Sunday, they start talking peace. And then Monday, when all the prices are really low, they do something militarily and all the prices shoot back up. And whoever bought oil between those two parts, when prices went down and prices went up, can make a lot of money. So that's why we believe this oil chart, this is a real oil war. It's a real oil war. It is being fought over oil, possession of oil, and the ability to sell oil, right? I like that. Somebody says we should call this Threats Thursday. Well, it is, because I have pages of threats that yesterday seemed mild in comparison, and it was only just open warfare, right? But today we have open warfare and a boatload of threats. I just don't get it, people. What's the matter with you? Take it easy for one day. That being said, I need another sip of my quadruple espresso. That's what I'm knocking back here today. Oh, all right. I can just barely make it. Hey, Spokane. Hey, kissy face. Kissy face. Always. Um, Kissy face, she loves seeing me broadcast from the sky. It brings, that's hilarious. It brings another definition to the Mile High Club. Yeah, because broadcasting from the air is about all I'm going to get for that Mile High Club. I'm the kind of guy who would think about that and then fall asleep. you know, in the middle of I fell asleep in the middle of the worst X-Men movie ever. So, but I did wake up by watching 6 episodes of Reno 911. That got me awake. That being said, enough fun and levity and politeness. Let's go into the news. Okay, it is yesterday. Open warfare broke out between the United States, Iran, and introducing the third party who was warned, Kuwait. Iran attacked Kuwait early in the morning today. They fired ballistic missiles at the Ali Al Salam air base and quite possibly fired as many as 5 or 10 drones at Camp Bueling and the Ali Al Salam air base. The ballistic missile, one, which was a relatively short range ballistic missile, was intercepted by Kuwaiti Air Force Patriot batteries, and drones were later shot down. However, Iran says they fired at Kuwait because the aircraft that attacked them down in the Strait of Hormuz came from Kuwait, which I'm having a hard time thinking about that because there's like a million airplanes between Kuwait and there. But I just think Iran just like to pick on somebody other than the United Arab Emirates for once. So Iran decided to expand this and to remind the Gulf states that things could get very bad very quickly if they keep continuing to support U.S. operations. In addition to that, the United States carried out yet another round of attacks last night. Not the attacks that we saw the day before when I was flying on an airplane. No, these are fresh attacks last night, claiming that the Iranians were attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz and claiming that they were carrying out a defensive attack against air defense sites in the Bandar Abbas area. Yes, Wajeeh.
Preemptive attack is what we are calling it.
Preemptive defensive attack.
Yeah.
They called it defensive action, right? It's like, oh, the previous night it was supposed to be about two small boats with mines on them, planting mines in the Strait of Hormuz, right? Which is a good excuse. However, if they're planting mines after all the bullshit we've seen in the Caribbean, you can show us the video because there is video. Okay. We keep those MH-60 helicopters out there. We keep Triton surveillance drones. We can see when big hot objects are being rolled off of a small boat and make a sploosh in the water, and you can see the thermal signature of that sea mine. All right. I haven't seen any evidence of any of this. When you consider that we've killed over 200 people in the Caribbean, sinking 100 boats, and every other day they're putting out a video of it. I just don't get it. What do they want to confuse the Iranians that their dead guys are dead? Go figure. All right.
And
Watch
somehow
anything?
we still have ceasefire. We're still in peace. We have not
Oh, they say.
resumed. Yeah, somehow. Um, that wasn't the only thing we've hit yesterday. I
What do you
don't know
have?
if you still want. We also downed like 4 or 5 drones,
Right.
Iranian drones.
About that. Yeah, those
Oh,
were
okay.
supposedly 5 Iranian drones, which were lobbed at U.S. warships and a tanker that was being escorted. That's what Central Command says. We don't know whether that was true. They also claims that they struck the vehicle that launched those drones that are on the Iranian land. So that being said, one thing we did miss yesterday was 15 hours ago or so, it was reported that a very large crude carrier off of Muscat, Oman, was struck by what is apparently a cruise missile that was fired
Oh,
from Iran and managed to travel all the way down to Muscat without hitting anything. It struck the very large crude carrier Olympic Life, which was 60 nautical miles northeast of Muscat, Oman. Actually, in fact, I can actually show you because unlike I have the big board today, Jacob's not here. If you give me 1 second. And that ship was struck at the waterline in the aft machinery, which means that it was not a drone, it was a cruise missile. Because a drone will hit the top of the ship coming down. A cruise missile travels at sea level and it explodes at the waterline in order to create a giant hole. And the fact that it hit aft of the ship means that the signature of the ship was higher with the bridge and crew quarters at the stern, and that missile hunted it out. So, if you give me one moment, U.S., Iran, war. Wait, I am going to call this the more warcast because it's a confusing warcast because no one wants to break the ceasefire. I am now putting up
poor
your
Oman.
space for questions. You can post your questions on the new on the new thread on Substack, right? I should spell more correctly, right? Not nor. There you go. Questions are up. You can post your questions there. Okay. Gosh, what were we about to talk about? We were talking, I'm going to show you on the chart where this ship was struck.
I was
Oh,
about to say,
yeah.
poor Oman doesn't know where to get it from Iran or from the United States. And they were the peace talkers. They were the ones trying to bring in the peace, and
There's a lot go.
somehow
Yeah.
they're the ones. They're the target.
Okay, we'll say this about 100 times, okay? Oman it tried and was doing a relatively good job of being the Switzerland. Let me rephrase that. Not Switzerland in terms of money, but Switzerland in terms of neutrality in the
Yeah.
Gulf, right? If you're talking about Switzerland in terms of money, you were talking about Qatar until this war started, right? Now, Qatar is on the shooting list. But Oman has been the mediator of virtually all the negotiations. So, taking a look at where 60 nautical miles northeast of Muscat is, here's the chart. Muscat's a nice town. It's a sleepy town, but here's Muscat right here. For those of you who can't see, I know you asked me to use the pointer. This is Muscat, Oman. This is Sohar. Sohar is the way that you get to United Arab Emirates. And then you go up here, and here's the Strait of Hormuz. Oman is this entire coastal area. Leading up here, this is the Strait of Hormuz. That's Oman's Musandam Peninsula, right? This is Oman in its entirety there. So, if a vessel is here northeast of Muscat, 60 nautical miles, it's about here, which means the missiles came from this coast up here, Chabahar, Jask area up there. Or it could have been on a vehicle that was up in the mountains and just launched them, and it came down there. But that seeker came on, the seeker on the missile itself activated off of Muscat and found a ship, and it hit a very specific, very large crude carrier, the Olympic Life. The ship is on fire. Crew is safe. They generally tend to put out those fires relatively quickly once they burn through the oil inventory, because the oil is actually stored in segments of the ship. But the actual fire took place down in the main machinery where the cruise missile struck. So that's probably ship's fuel oil. Okay, that activity is going on. So we have combat up here in the Strait of Hormuz, combat over here at Bandar Ijaz, combat over here in Muscat, Oman. Then Sirik, Lavan Island, Kishem Island, Bandar Abbas. Then, in retaliation for all that, the Iranians launched ballistic missiles here in the north. There you go. Over here, and those ballistic missiles land in Kuwait there. So as you can see, we're just missing a couple of more ballistic missiles to be back in full-scale combat. But the Iranians are enjoying this because, as I like to say, every day that the Strait of Hormuz has shooting in it, the insurance companies will not insure ships, which means I don't care how many U.S. warships want to come out and escort you, your insurance company's not going to let you out. And they said there's as many as 300 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Can't go anywhere. Even though I heard one or two got out yesterday using the Southern Traffic Separation Scheme, and that's what Iran was mad about, shot at them. Okay, that's just to start the day. My favorite comment that I got yesterday going through Twitter, there's a guy named Mr. Global. He is a global oil energy expert, great guy. What I like about Mr. Global is he's funny as hell. All right, it's like listening to myself sometimes. That guy knows his business about oil. And what he said about all of this shooting and fighting going on in the Strait of Hormuz was, it appears Iran's not particularly desperate.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
That's what I've
right,
been trying to
Raj?
explain the whole time.
I don't. They seem to have all the time in the world to launch cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, and even though their oil fields are filling up and their bunkers are overflowing, and they're bringing ships out of retirement to fill them up with oil, they apparently have time. Because guess what? Their economy's not going to collapse before the world economy collapses. Mm. And in theory, that is supposed to impact the Trump administration. All right, Waj, here's where we go on to the next one. You're going to like this one. Uh, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to bring up the video. Waj, somebody reported this as being the reported what's going on as being Threatening Thursday. And one of those threats was couched One of those threats was couched as a compliment and a request by no lesser than Madam Lindsay Elizabeth Graham, who said, "It's so crazy. I'm just going to let you hear it. Everybody hear it. Lindsey Graham has thoughts. All right. Oh, before we go any further, Wajeeh, this is yours. I meant to set you up with this. I didn't set you up with it. Let me play the video and you can go and make the commentary. Wajeeh said this is what he was going to talk about today. And me being a big mouth, I completely blew him off as usual. Uh, Apparently, Donald Trump has lost his goddamn mind, just as I have lost the remote to my uh yeah. Just give me a moment. I have to find the remote because you will want to hear the audio of what Donald Trump had to say about his ally or his erstwhile neutral intermediary, Oman. Wajeeh, you want to tell him what he said?
Oh my dear Lord. He
I'll play
goes
the video. You tell him.
he goes, well, we'll just bomb them if they
Wait, wait,
don't
wait.
cooperate.
I got to caution
They
you. I got to caution you. We have this phrase that I like to use. If you're going to tell a story, tell it good, right?
oh,
Start with who said what against whom, when, and how, and then hit them with the punchline.
so Trump was being asked about, well, what you think about Iran going out and inviting Oman and being a partner when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz and splitting the bill, not splitting the income when each ship passes through, so they would make billions of dollars.
Yeah,
Well,
the
Trump,
Persian Gulf Straits Authority.
exactly. Well, Trump wanted when he first heard Iran wanted to do and started charging people money to started wanting to charge these ships money to pass through the strait. He goes, I want to have a venture. I want
Yeah,
to have
like
a venture
two and
with
a
the
half
Iranians.
months ago he said that. 2.5 months ago he
That's
was
right.
like, "Oh yeah, we can get some money out of that." But now he's
But
changed his
but
mind.
then they were like, you ain't getting nothing. We work with the Omanis. All of a sudden, he's so butthurt that he didn't get to have the venture with the Iranians. Look what he said. He said, we'll just bomb the Omanis if they
Okay,
please,
let's
Lord Jesus.
let's go to the video. Apparently, Trump woke up yesterday and suddenly was told that Oman and Iran are actually negotiating seriously now. Before, when he thought Oman wouldn't go for it, Trump thought he would do it. He thought the United States would do a joint venture with Iran. That was 8 weeks ago. Now he woke up yesterday, Don Snorleone, and decided that this isn't a good idea. So here's what he had to say about what would happen if Oman, a theoretical U.S. ally that you got bombed because U.S. Navy ships were refueling and taking on food down in Duqm in Oman. Here's what Trump had to say about this.
Iran wants control of the Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
Now, the strait's going to be open to everybody. It's
Individual.
international waters.
It's not.
Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch out. Watch out. Nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, and we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Okay, let's go to that last part. Oman has to understand that, or we will blow them up. Oman. OMAN, a nation that has been assisting the U.S. Navy, and they're just like everybody else. We'll just blow them up. Let's hear it again.
Have to blow them up. They're just like everybody else, and we'll have to blow them up. They understand that they'll be fine.
They'll have to behave like everybody else, or we'll just blow them up. You know what? Sometimes I have far too much fun doing this show. This is really, really, really just, oh, that is cringe. Okay, so the United States just threatened the one ally that had been quietly assisting the U.S. Navy. And we know for a fact that they've been assisting the U.S. Navy, right? I'm going to show you a satellite image of U.S. warships resupplying in Duqm, Oman. Quietly. During this entire war, Oman was quietly resupplying U.S. Navy ships in Oman, which Iran fired ballistic missiles at Oman because the U.S. Navy, this is an Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer right here at Duqm, Oman. This is a U.S. Navy ammunition ship and logistical resupply ship. They are there loading not just with fuel, but with food, right? So this was early on in the war, and this is why Oman was bombarded with drones and ballistic missiles at that port, right? So this is interesting. This pier, even though it was empty after the U.S. Navy left, the Iranians bombed that pier just to send a little message, right? That we know what you're doing there. Okay, we got Chinese satellites too. We saw those warships down there. So the Iranians bombarded that pier, just a couple of drones, to make it clear that maybe you should stop helping them. All right, and don't forget they bombed the oil tanks in Salalah. They've bombed the oil tanks up at Khor There's a price to be paid, but to Donald Trump, none of this means anything. None of it means anything that you got bombarded for the U.S. Navy and he's threatening to attack you because you now are going to negotiate your own waters. Before I let you have your commentary, Wajeeh, I want to point out again that according to the United Nations Charter on Law of the Sea, the UNCLOS, everyone controls up to 12 nautical miles off their coast, every country in the world. But the Strait of Hormuz at the narrowest point is 21 nautical miles. That means 12 to the 10 and a half to the south and 10 and a half to the north. But in fact, it's 12 and 12. Oman's waters and Iran's waters overlap by 2 miles. It is not an international waterway. Now, according to the United Nations Charter on Law of the Sea, or Convention on Law of the Sea, narrow passageways and straits like that are to be left for freedom of navigation so that ships can do commerce through there. However, guess who didn't sign the charter? Iran.
Iran.
God damn it. There's like, what next? Oh, Wajeeh, help me out of this.
You know, the GCC nations, for the first time, know how it feels like to have a kafil. And for those Americans that don't know what a kafil is, it's the sponsor who sponsors you and holds all your documents and abuses you in the Middle East before
And
you go
gets
back
51% of all profits.
of all of your profit as a worker in the Gulf state. So that's exactly how Trump is treating these Gulf states, especially that these Gulf states have been so nice and willing to the United States. You know who's like very thankful that hasn't committed any money to the United States and hasn't invested any money into the United States? Oman. They're so lucky. Out of the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar has spent billions of dollars into the United States. All of a sudden, a lot of these assets are almost worthless. They have to cut most of these investments to rediverse these liquidities to Middle Eastern, to their national security interests, because they're at war. Now the United States is out of that, but also these countries could have started like Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar could have invested that money in Ukrainian uh, uh, air defenses and drones to prepare for something like this. And they're kicking themselves in the ass at the moment. They're like, why did we do this? Why did we promise Trump $1 trillion? Why did I give
Trump Tower, Trump Golf Course? They're losing
exactly?
trillions.
So they're like, never mind. So the one country that they're not rich, their military is not bigger than 50,000 people. Oman, they have been specifically designed to do peace talks, like you said, to be intermediators. They have connections with groups that are considered extremists, and they have most of the time bridged that gap. And when you look at how they invested in their country, they invested in their culture. I told you one time, if Americans want to have a trip to the history of the Middle East, they don't go to Saudi Arabia, they don't go to UAE, they go to Oman, because they get a full cultural, like, heritage experience. It's just,
Because it's not well developed.
yeah.
My family, we rode camels for a week in Oman, and it was not done for tourists. They took our ass to the desert. They threw us into an actual tent where the people had goats and shit in the tent with us. And they were like, well, that's your corner. And then they had to show us how to saddle a camel, harness a camel, make the camel kneel, and do that. And they were like, there's your camel. They weren't doing that. There were no servants. We were the servants on that trip. But we asked for that. We asked for Oman's where you're going to get it raw. Oman, Yemen, Morocco a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
Sudan, you know. But let's not focus too much on that, because there's more we have to go over. Here is Donald Trump, and this regards this. I'm going to leave to your commentary. This is regarding Trump has got it into his head that he is now tying the memorandum of understanding to the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords are an agreement written up by Jared Kushner, okay, Trump's Jewish son-in-law, that would open all relations between Arab states and Israel. Exchange of embassies, exchange of ambassadors, open up all trade, and open up airways. And I believe, did the United Arab Emirates sign it, or did they sign a letter of intent to sign the Abraham Accords? Could you look that up for me? Because
UAE, the United Arab Emirates, they signed the whole treaty.
they did. Okay, let's
Yeah.
see who has. I know the Saudis haven't, but the UAE. Okay, that's interesting. Well,
UAE has signed the Abrahamic Accord, and Bahrain.
Bahrain. Okay, you see what happened to Bahrain. Okay, I want to show you this video. There are two videos that I think that are very important for you to see. This is from C-SPAN, so I'm not violating any copyrights. This is Trump saying, if you want this war to end, all of you Arab states have to sign the Abraham Accords. And I'm going to turn it this way so that you can see Whiskey Pete Hegseth, because he refers to Pete Hegseth saying, if you don't, you'll have to deal with this guy. So here's the United States twice on the same day threatening our allies. And don't worry, there will be three because they come in threes. So let's take a listen to this idiot.
So, no, I would like to have the countries we were talking about, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and the others. We'd like to have them immediately join and Steve Woodcock is working on that with Jared and some others, but would like to have them join the Abraham Accords. It'll be historic if they do it. I think they owe that to us, to be honest. I think because that really would be a tremendous sign. And I think those countries owe it to us. Steve, are you going to get them to sign it?
We're definitely pushing it, Mr. President.
I'm not sure we should make the deal if they don't sign. You want to know them. If they don't sign to join the Abraham Accords, I don't know that we have countries in there already. UAE, great countries, both countries, and it's turned out to be so good, so effective, and so we're requesting strongly that they join. It'll be great. It'd be great for Saudi Arabia. It'd be great for Qatar, and Kuwait.
So the Iran deal might be contingent on more countries joining.
I don't want to say that. Like they give you.
You just said it.
I can say that we can make a good deal right now. Maybe not a great deal. And if it's not a great deal, we're not making it. Because we can make a great deal with this guy right here. And probably wouldn't go as quickly. We're talking about as quickly, but it would be foolproof. But I think we're doing very well, Steve. I think we're doing pretty well in terms of the negotiation, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. So that's the second time he threatened people in the same press conference, saying that, well, if we don't make a deal, they'll have to deal with this guy right here. And that one of the things that is missing, I don't have the clip. He essentially says they owe it to him to sign the Abraham Accords. We talked about this a few days ago. Wajeeh, back me up. We talked about this roping in the Abraham Accords as a new level of desperation because he's lost this war. It's lost, guys. We got nothing out of it. He got Obama's JCPOA worse. And they say he's really angry at the news media saying that, right? But it's worse. So now he wants to have this grand bargain so that he can claim he created peace amongst the entirety of the Middle East, all of the Middle East. Everyone is now at peace with Israel.
Yeah.
Okay? Israel, God. When I was one of those big skeptics back when Joe Kent, the former director of counterterrorism, blooded guy, right? Special forces operating, years of honorable service, took over the CIA's counterterrorism center. And I agree with nothing about Joe Kent about politics. But I'll tell you right now, Joe Kent said we were being led around by a nose ring by Israel. And he saw the raw, highest level intelligence between us and them. And it's clear we were being led around by a nose ring. They started this war for us at our request, right? And then we thought we would collapse Iran very fast because Trump was assured Iran was weak and people were uprising and that everybody would do it. If you look back at the war, at all the shows we talked about, we tried literally everything. We tried bombing all their ballistic missile sites. Didn't get them. I have some satellite imagery to talk about that. We tried to actually retroactively send weapons over so that they could suddenly distribute them to all those tens of thousands of people that were protesting so that Israel and the United States could start a blood revolution in Iran. A bloody revolution, which, of course, would have probably cost hundreds of thousands of people their lives. But they did it like a crazy-ass afterthought. Like, oh, yeah, why don't we send some guns over, y'all? It's like, in the run up to a war, if you're going to do a clandestine intelligence operation like, I don't know, fund a revolution and send over that revolution to become an armed revolution, you don't wait till 2 weeks into the war as an afterthought. And then the Israelis started bombing police stations and IRGC outposts, even IRGC checkpoints, right? Police roadblock checkpoints around the country in support of what they thought, oh, if we bomb tonight, we bomb 100 checkpoints, the people will rise up in revolution. No, they all just were like, fuck, I ain't gonna do that. We saw what happened in January. You can't trust Trump. You can't trust the Israelis, right? That being said, now we have resorted to begging them and then at the exact same time threatening them. For those of
We
you who are
threatened.
asking me to let Waj speak, I will let Waj speak. Just
I
I have a
wasn't.
rant in
I
me. So
wasn't.
Waj, go ahead.
I wasn't. I wasn't trying to speak until now. Actually.
See, you guys need to exercise patience.
I listen, like they tried to attack the Kurds, and like Trump was so pissed at like the Kurdish people, even though we betrayed the Kurdish people over and over and over again when we promised them Kurdistan over and over and over again for do this for us and we'll give you the land, do this for that, like go ahead and help us take out Saddam Hussein, help us take out Al Qaeda, help us take out ISIS, help us the they were tired of all of these commands that resulted in nothing. And now, when we gave them weapons, we demanded that they do something about it. We heard just a day or two after that threat that they were going around to checkpoints and they just opened fire at several checkpoints like that a month or two ago. And that was it. That was it. We never heard about it again until now. So
The desperation is palpable. Let's be honest, folks. If you followed this podcast, you all know everything has been tried on this country, everything except a land invasion. And we talked about that for weeks at a time. Weeks at a time they were preparing to put ground troops on the ground. But everything else has been tried. Everything. Clandestine operations, subversion of the civilian population, bombing in support of revolution, arming third-party groups. I find it absolutely fucking hilarious that the Kurds took their weapons. And here's the best part. The CIA, of course, is responsible for this kind of clandestine operation, right? Using paramilitary officers to train, equip, and coordinate with these organizations, right? Third-party in what we call indig forces. I've worked with indigenous forces. And guess what? They took our weapons and were like, no, we ain't invading. Motherfuckers got more guns than us, right? No matter, I mean, just because you bomb a country doesn't mean the 93 million people disappeared. They could pull up 1 million people. They didn't even mobilize the Basji. They didn't even fully mobilize. If they had called it jihad and had fully mobilized that country, you would have had 25 million people, all of them in the streets. All of them in the streets. That being said, it's not enough, Malcolm. That's not enough ass kicking and begging for one day. There's got to be at least one more because, these things come in threes. Why, yes, there is. Not to be outdone, Lady Lindsey Graham decided to get on Fox News and one, not only get orange powder all over his face, because Lindsey Graham doesn't go nose first, all right? He motorboats. So he gets it in there. And this is what he has to say about the Abraham Accords and what should happen.
Oh my God.
He can pull this off. If he can get Saudi Arabia, the center of Islam for the entire world,
to recognize the Jewish state Israel, he will have ended the Arab-Israeli conflict that's been going on for thousands of years. They should change the Nobel Prize to the Trump Prize. If he can do that, and I think he can, it's the biggest change in the history, in the modern history, and in the ancient history of the Mideast, where the Arabs and the Jews live together, where it becomes a center of power economically, not a powder keg. And once you put Iran in the box, and he's going to do that, we're going to have peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Nobody thought that was possible. I believe it's possible. And there's one guy can do it, Donald Trump. He can pull this off. If he can get Saudi Arabia, the center of Islam, for the entire world to recognize the Jewish state Israel, he'll have ended the Arab-Israeli conflict that's been going on for thousands of years.
Technical note. Wajeeh, how old is the state of Israel?
Like what? Less than 60, 70 years max. The
75 years
Israeli
old, 79 years old.
The Israeli-Iranian conflict is 40 years. Israeli-Iranian conflict is 40 years. Israel as a state, 70 years. The first Israeli the first Israeli Arab war in 1950s. Like this problem hasn't existed 1,000 years ago. Jews, Muslims, Christians have lived in the Levant forever. And the Levant includes Palestine, includes Jerusalem, includes all of that. And it was all recognized as one land, and that all wasn't divided into different segments until the Oslo Accord, I think, or something like that. The thing is, I'm very sad to say that Lindsey Graham is my goddamn stupid fraternity brother. And even in my fraternity, we make the
Wait.
fun of.
What sorority did you join?
I joined Pi Kappa Phi. I was a founding father
That's a fraternity. I didn't know you had a sister organization. I get my licks in on him every time. Go ahead.
And the thing is every time he opens his mouth, he just shows me everything I need to know about how incompetent he is. The Saudi Crown Prince already has death threats and has already had his powers pulled away from him, from his dad and his dad's advisors, because he was too pro-Israel. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman literally told Western media that he fears for his life, and that's why he hasn't signed the Abrahamic Accord. The Trump administration, for some reason, feels like they can demand all of these things from the Middle East when they don't have the upper hand anymore. When China is stepping in every time the United States drops the ball and China picks up the ball. Like, you guys are losing the Middle East, and you're losing the Persian Gulf, and you're about to lose the Omani Gulf, and what's next? What's next?
How old is King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud?
He's
By
in
the
his
way,
80s.
Americans, little historical and cultural note for you. Saudi Arabia is ruled by essentially an executor that is MBS, right? Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed, son of Salman. The king of Saudi Arabia is Salman bin
And he's 90 years old.
Abdulaziz. He is the son of the original King Abdulaziz Al Saud. So just FYI, when you keep hearing, oh, King of Saudi Arabia, we're not talking about Mohammed MBS. We're not talking about Mohammed bin Salman. He is the crown prince, the top prince who is essentially running the country, right?
That is the king.
That's him, old guy, Khalas. So that's Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. So that being said, he's the guy that doesn't want to sign. right? He's not allowing Saudi Arabia to normalize relations. But the point I'm trying to get about here today is they goddamn desperate. They're really desperate for this because the Iran war is going to go down as a loss. And now they are trying to say, oh, we attacked Iran. And by doing that, that brought peace to the whole Middle East. Israel's only 77 years old. I know. I was just there a year ago. I've spent a bunch of time in Israel, been all over. I was there when it was having its birthday. This year should be 77. Islam is 1,447 years old. This is 1,447 Abad the Hijrah, right? After Prophet Muhammad's Hijrah. Islam started in 610 AD, 610. That's when the Prophet Muhammad had his revelation, all right, and was told, Iqra, ya Muhammad, right? Read, ya Muhammad. And that's when Islam started. So Lindsey Graham, Lady Lindsey, doesn't even know the basics. There were how many Jewish families in Mecca in 610?
Oh my God.
It was the name of the families come to me right now. Anyway, there were at least 2 Jewish families in Mecca. In 609, Saudi Arabia, what is now Mecca, right, was a trading post for nomadic peoples coming everywhere. And the Jews lived in the village, and the other pre-Muslims, right? They called the Jahiliyyah, right? The ignorant people who were ignorant of Allah. They used Mecca as a place where anyone could come and pray to their various gods. But the Jews had been there for centuries because it was along the east, the western, north, south camel trail from Yemen to Jerusalem. So people were always coming through. Christians came through. Muslims came through. Not Muslims. Jews came through. The Jahiliyyah came from the desert, right?
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
The Jewish ethnic trace in Arabia is very deep. We still have tribes in Arabia that have converted to Islam, but if you do their DNA test, they will come up almost like 80-90% Jewish. I did my DNA test and I came back 8% Ashkenazi Jew. And if you just do the research, yeah, I personally have friends of mine that did their Al-Harbi tribe, for example, is for sure a Jewish tribe that has converted to Islam. And many people don't know that Jewish people existed in Arabia and existed in most of Arab countries, all of Arab countries, until the first Israeli Arab War, where go for it.
Yeah, I was just looking up the Banu Nadir, Banu Kenuka, and the Banu Qurayza. They weren't in Mecca, but they were in that immediate region. These were Jewish tribes that were there. Janet Morris made a great comment. She said the Jewish people are 5,787 years old. I know. Okay, I've seen some of these antiquities in Israel where the Hebrew then is the same Hebrew as now, right? I've been to Yaffo. I saw the monument to Ramesses II that they put up thanking them for letting them go from Egypt. Judaism's old, which is my point. Jews have been up and down the Arabian Peninsula since forever. And when Islam started in 610, Jews were there. There was no Jewish-Muslim war. There were the skirmishes between those who saw the new Islam as a threat to their polytheistic center of marketing, right? Mecca was a market. what is now the Kaaba was a place that any religion could go in and worship, and they collected fees off of that.
Yep.
Right? So
They
I
had
hate it when I get
different.
these morons who come up and go, well, the Arab-Israeli war has been going on. Israel as a nation, yes, has existed for millennia, but there was no Arab-Israeli war going on. Damn it, everything was tribal back then. Abraham was a migrant worker from Nasiriyah, Iraq. Okay?
Back then, if you're looking at 1,400 years ago, you just have to understand that things were very harsh. People weren't killing each other to begin with over religion until after Islam was kicked out of Mecca, and then the religious wars came after that. But beforehand, everyone was just fighting over food, and everyone was fighting over trade. And Mecca had different deities from all different faiths from across the world, and when these countries would come in from India or China for trade, they would have their own deities in front of Mecca, and they would pay respect to it. So Mecca was a hub that has had international standing, but
Polytheistic.
polytheistic. Yep.
Polytheistic. It was a hub for polytheistic worship because when you came across the southern Arabian desert, all right, and you wanted to pray to your God, thank God, they just gave you a tent that you could go do it in without interruption, but that's pre-Islam. Pre-Islam. So it just drives me nuts when
Well,
I get
even
morons like Lindsey Graham going, the Arab-Israeli war has been going on for thousands of years. Tribal war has been going on since the first monkey saw something the second monkey had that he wanted.
But even the Arab Israeli conflict didn't really happen until Israel started taking people out of their homes and kicking them out, and then the Israeli Arab conflict happened. And then all the Arabs all of a sudden started gathering the Jews from Arab countries and stealing their stuff and kicking them out. All of a sudden, Arab Jews from Yemen, Arab Jews from Syria, Arab Jews from Iraq, Arab Jews from Egypt will all gather up, and all of a sudden they didn't know where to go. So they went to Israel, or they went to America, or they went to Europe, but most of them went to Israel. But Arabs, Muslims, Christians, Jews, they lived with each other for all of the 1,400 years. And it wasn't a big issue until the Israeli-Arab conflict.
Okay, the Israeli-Arab conflict is a modern invention, okay? Religious on religious violence is a historic event. The reason that there was fighting between the Prophet Muhammad's forces and all of the pre-Islamic peoples in Mecca, Medina, Yathrib, all those places is because it was upsetting the economic order, right? It's in the Quran. Go read it, right? They did not like that this monotheistic organization was now pushing out the polytheism that was essentially financing the city on the trade route. And then it worked its way up. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a very well-traveled person. He had been to Jerusalem. Okay, the camel trails up the western Saudi coast takes you, I know it because I've sailed the western Saudi coast, takes you all the way up along the water to Aqaba. Then in Aqaba, you go up into central Jordan. You go to I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But anyway, you go up to Philadelphia. You go up through not Madaba, the place carved into the valley. I went there with my family, so of course I can't remember. And then you cross over the River Jordan through Jericho to Jerusalem. Everybody had been there. Everybody went to the Mediterranean coast back then. Your camel caravan did not stop and just turn around back at Aqaba. The Prophet Muhammad had seen Jerusalem, had heard about Judaism and Christianity and other polytheistic religions for years before Islam was founded in a revelation. They're very similar, right? Judaism
Mhm.
stopped just before Jesus. Christianity stopped with Jesus. The Prophet Muhammad said that he was called the end of the prophet, not the end of the prophets. What's the word that they use? But the pinnacle of the prophets, right? No more prophets.
The last of the prophet.
Last of the prophets, no more prophets after the Prophet Muhammad. Jesus, the most powerful of all prophets. The Jews were recognized. The parts of the New Testament, the Old in the Torah are in the Quran.
There is the expectation of a Mahdi that
Not
would.
enough espresso, Virginia.
There is an expectation of a Mahdi, a very, very.
Messiah.
No, this is the person that will bring in the Messiah. The Mahdi is a descendant of the prophet lineage
Prophet
that.
Muhammad, he has to be fair of skin. He has to have a mole on the right cheek. He has to be from the Quraysh tribe.
Yep. And the name essentially means, the name of the Mahdi means, is the person that will guide people to righteousness, and he will be the person that brings on Jesus Christ back from heaven
Right.
to earth.
Jesus will return as the final prophet, who is the most powerful of prophets at the end of times.
Yep.
Anyway, Virginia, we're getting to that. We're giving this little history lesson because we had to talk about Lady Lindsey Graham. I told you this show's going to go 2 hours. I'm only a third of the way through the crazy notes. So let's move on, because you needed to know that, because of our nexus contentious subject. I think we're going to save that contentious subject to the end. Let's talk about Lebanon. Lebanon has 3,269 people killed. Israel appears to be completely out of fucks and out of control. I'm saying this as an ally. Israel needs to be reined in now on what's going on in Lebanon. I know they're fighting Hezbollah, but they have called for, before they were moving only 25 kilometers into southern Lebanon. Now they are asking for everything south of the Zahrani River. That is just south of the city of Sidon. I'll bring it up on the map. Just south of Sidon and down to the Israeli border. It is 600 square kilometers, or 235 square miles. They have called for the evacuation of every person in southern Lebanon again. And now they've declared the area south of the Litani River, 25 miles. Oops. Sorry about that. They've declared that a absolute war zone, a combat zone, which means they can destroy any building, any family, anything inside that zone. I'm going to bring it up on Google Earth. Litani River. I don't want Litani, I want the Saharani. Okay, follow along here because it's important you know where these things are occurring on the map. Let me know if that's not big enough. I'll zoom in for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Rosh Hanikra, opposite side Nakura. This is the Israeli border. I have been all along that border. I've even been to Kiryat Shimona. I've been over here in the Golan Heights. That's Metula, the northernmost point in Israel, right? Oh, actually, might not be over here. This is the city of Tyre. It is an ancient ass Lebanese city. Ancient. How ancient? These guys don't even like calling themselves Lebanese. They like to call themselves not Sumerians. What are those Lebanese like to call themselves? Anyway, an ancient name that was given to them by the Romans. This is Beirut up here.
Kanaanin.
What's that, Shu? Phoenicians. Yeah, they like to call themselves Phoenicians. Beirut here, and then down here is the city of Sidon, and then this is Sarafand, and then Tyre. Okay, Tyre is a very ancient Roman port, very ancient. So is Sidon, right? The Israelis are now declaring not the Litani River, the Farani River, back up here south of Sidon, and everything south of it is now an operational zone to be evacuated. We are talking right now, they have already evacuated hundreds of thousands of Lebanese. But the Israelis are warning that Tyre and everything south of it is now an open kill zone. If they see you in it, they will kill you. They struck the city of Tyre 7 times yesterday, killing 14 people, down from the 56 people they killed the day before. They are at 3,269 dead, over 9,400 wounded. This is quickly becoming the new Gaza. This is a war of extermination. And I'll tell you, if I was in the White House and the National Security Council, I'd be telling the president, you got to call them and stop them now. Because what we're going to get is it's almost like they are trying to get Hezbollah to overthrow the government so they can have a reason to just wipe out everybody.
And they could do it.
As an ally, I don't find this acceptable, but Trump finds it all absolutely acceptable. 120 airstrikes over the weekend, not the weekend, the 2 days before. And there are airstrikes going on right now. And they struck, I found it interesting, struck during the Eid al-Adha holiday. Can you want to explain what Eid Adha is?
So Muslims celebrate Eid al-Adha, the holiday of sacrifice, where God has requested from Prophet Ibrahim to sacrifice his son, and in that order. When Ibrahim was on his way to sacrifice his son, Iblis, Satan, came up to him and tried to change his mind several times. And Prophet Ibrahim would turn around, take out some tiny stones and throw it at Satan, and kept going. And when he reached the time to slaughter his son, anytime he goes to do it, the knife would be very dull and it would just not work. And then God gifted Prophet Ibrahim with a very large sheep from heaven. And he said, you can sacrifice this sheep in my name instead of your son. And since Islam started, the Prophet Muhammad, when they migrated from Mecca to Medina, and they had their own wars with Mecca, and after Muhammad had his own wars with Mecca, they came to an agreement where Muslims can go and have their own pilgrimage to honor Prophet Ibrahim for his sacrifice, and that's exactly what Muslims do. Every Muslim that is able financially and health wise to go to Mecca and do this pilgrimage. They're obligated to do it once in their lifetime. Once you do this pilgrimage successfully, meaning you don't commit any sins while you're doing this amazing experience, you are as if you were born for the first time, meaning you are washed from all of your sins, and you start life as if you're starting from over again. It's something that a lot of Muslims save a lifetime of income for, so they could do it at least once in their lifetime. And have you done your Hajj, Malcolm?
Me? No. You'll have to come with me. We'll both be infiltrated. Okay. Wallahi, I know that I knew that for those of you who can't remember this story, it's in the Bible. It's in the book of Genesis, right? Abraham sacrificing his son Isaac, right? So Eid Adha is the Islamic celebration of the story where God stops him from sacrificing his son and allows him to sacrifice what, Wajeeh?
A sheep.
Anything, a sheep, a ram, camels,
Oh,
donkeys.
who's
You
allowed
have
to
to
do
make a
what?
blood sacrifice.
God gave Ibrahim a sheep to sacrifice, but depending on the size of your family, you can choose what animal. And if you're doing more than one family, so some families will do, multiple families will divide a cow, which would allow more than one family to participate. But yes, you're supposed to do slaughter and anything in the name of God that you can. And here's the thing, for Hajj, you donate 1/3, you gift a 1/3, and you keep a 1/3 of the animal. So the whole thing is about giving away that meat for family and friends and neighbors. And there's a distinction.
Yoseliah saying the
Yeah.
exact same thing right now. Yeah, we got you, Emil. So anyway, long story very short, because I knew as you were recounting that story, I go, oh, I know that. That's the story of the binding of Isaac, where Abraham ties him down. And in Christianity, the angels stop him from slaying Isaac, not a dull blade. I believe that this is a Rembrandt, which is where I know this story of. And that's where we get. You see how all of these religions cross over, all the stories cross over. That being said, okay, I wanted to skip over because there's a lot of global things, but I want to end the show today on a very, very, very serious situation that I think is not getting the press that it should. We were going to talk about it yesterday. I didn't want to talk about it at 33,000 feet. The United States and Israel have proposed that that with the United States complicity, that Jordan will be removed as the custodian of
Oh
the
my
Al
God.
Aqsa Mosque in Mecca and the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Now, the proposal is the United States would allow the Israelis, right, with their support, to take over the Al Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock. By the way, two separate things. See, Robot Bender goes, what? Yeah, I heard this story and I was like, jihad for everybody, right? Holy war for the next 20 years. Every Muslim will be required to fight. See, everybody's putting up the word jihad before I ever said it, right? Here's the deal. They want to end Jordan's custodianship of it. I was just there a year ago. I was not allowed to Dome of the Rock. I have been to Dome of the Rock and I have been to Al Aqsa Mosque, right? They
Well,
want to turn, what's that?
it's not up to them. The Jordan has legal custodianship over the Aqsa Mosque. Legal.
Guess what? With Donald Trump's support, they want to end it. And they wanted to put it under U.S. Israeli control. Israel will choose, get this, the imams that can preach at the Al-Aqsa Mosque side and the Dome of the Rock, which started as a mosque, but which is not Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? People don't seem to understand. There's two different things. They want to turn that into a multi-faith center where they will also allow Jews are not presently allowed on the Temple Mount area, where they believe that Dome of the Rock is where the third temple of Israel was supposed to be built. Oh, it gets worse. Everybody follow along here because I'm about to give you some little more education. I have no idea why these things come up in the middle of a war, but this is a way to get your next war. They want to expand Israeli worship services onto the Temple Mount, where they believe the third temple of Israel should be built. They want before I go any further, let me talk to you about a group of people that I first encountered in the year 2000, right? It was called, back in 1999, there was an FBI project called Project Megiddo. And they went to out to the U.S. intelligence community for analysis and support, because we had Americans that were going to Israel in the run-up to the millennia and were going to carry out terrorist acts in Jerusalem in order that the Muslims would start slaughtering all of the Jews so that Jesus could come back. And if that wasn't crazy enough, there's a guy in Texas who is trying to breed cows so that they create a red/purple cow. So that would be a sign that Israel would collapse and all the Jews would be killed and Jesus would return for the end of times. This happened in 1999 to the year 2000. The red heifer. Somebody just said that. Yeah. Okay. That's a good commentary. I'm going to read that commentary. This is from Mar. Wait, what? Yeah, this is a crazy story, right? The FBI and the Israeli Shin Bet captured Americans, including a couple that was collecting explosives to blow up Dome of the Rock.
Yep.
Because they knew, as the third holiest shrine of Islam, right, after Mecca and Medina, that the Muslims would go nuts and would savagely kill every person in the city. So that's what they wanted to start. And the entire U.S. counterterrorism community was throwing their opinions in about it and supporting these operations of the FBI to stop crazy Americans from going up. You can look it up, Project Megiddo. Megiddo, project in 1999 in the run-up to the millennium. Yes, refers to the 1999 strategic assessment warning of potential domestic terrorism catalyzed by the year 2000. It was crazy back then. But here's the worst part. Imagine those people now running the White House. That's what we have. So they want to take over the Al-Aqsa Mosque because there is a movement in Israel called the Temple Mount Faithful movement. It appears that in the Torah, the third temple of Israel, was prophesied by Ezekiel that it was supposed to be built on the spot of the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So this group of Jews for a very long time, almost a century, have been advocating leveling Dome of the Rock and building the third temple of Israel exactly as Ezekiel prophesied it. And to do it, that would allow priests would have to go there and give blood sacrifices. Every year, the Israelis stop these radical guys from going there and committing blood sacrifices. Messianic Jews. Who said that? That is correct. Thea Sterling says that. They are Messianic Jews. Well, Malcolm, I'm sure you have a photo show you'd like to show us of what we're talking about. Well, first, here's some of my travel trips from Israel when I stayed in the Jewish quarter. Well, I didn't mean for us to go to Holy Bagel, but that is an actual place, Holy Bagel. Best bagels in Old Town. This was the shop next door. If you guys need spices or if you need your teas and everything, that place is good. This is, by the way, is near the old synagogue. Sorry, little tourism. Here we are. I'm going to go through it. That symbol, that place with the gold dome and the blue body is Dome of the Rock. The place, this wall down in front of us with more detail, this area here is the Western Wall. This is the Wailing Wall. Men's section, ladies section. This is where you come in. Now, there were a lot more controls than the last time I went through. Last time I was allowed down there was in 1989. And you could just one or two, a couple of soldiers sitting around with their rifles. And you can just come in here, get a little kufiya on, go over here, write a note, put it into the wall, and your wishes will be granted, right? Men and women. Well, it's gotten a lot more orthodox and it's gotten a lot more organized since I was back there. But as you can see, it sits at the foot of Dome of the Rock. That's Dome of the Rock. Wallahi, Malcolm, where's the Al-Aqsa Mosque? Right here, other side of that wall.
Yep.
This entire area is called the Temple Mount. Let me see. I think I got some better pictures there. There is a better photo of the Wailing Wall on both sides. This runs 24/7, by the way. So, and I stayed at the Sephardic Hotel, which I showed you guys, about 5 weeks ago, the ballistic missile that it dropped right in front of my hotel, missed the bus stop during the middle of the day and didn't kill anybody because it was an air raid and did not blow up. So the Sephardic Hotel had its own ballistic missile. Loads of fun. This
If
is the
you
entire Temple Mount end to end. You see right there, Al-Aqsa Mosque, Western Wall, Dome of the Rock. But this is what the Trump administration wants to turn over to Israel. Why is this important to us that we went 23 minutes past the show? If this happens, there will be fucking holy war across the Middle East. You will see terrorism. They will make ISIS look like pikers. Any Muslim that supports this is going to wake up dead. Right? Third
Yeah.
holiest shrine in Islam. Can you tell us the story of the Prophet Muhammad's midnight ride to Jerusalem, where he went into heaven from the top of the Dome of the Rock?
If you're wondering what the true significance of the Holy Mosque of Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock, here's what it is. Prophet Muhammad, when he was still in Mecca and when Islam was still new, he was once received by a horse with wings. We
Pegasus?
call Pegasus. We call him Buraq. Pegasus, he called him Al-Buraq. And Al-Buraq flew Prophet Muhammad overnight from Mecca to Al-Aqsa. And where in Al-Aqsa, he was the Imam. The Imam means the leader of a prayer.
Prayer
Where
leader, which could be anyone.
Yeah, but the people that prayed behind him, according to the Muslim story, were all the previous prophets. And then after he prayed and led that prayer, he was raised with Jibreel, took him from Al-Aqsa Mosque to the highest heaven in order to meet Allah. And that trip is where God basically gives orders to Muhammad for how to teach Muslims how to pray to Allah and what the Qibla is and how many times they need to pray a day toward God. So it was 50 prayers a day. And then I think it was Prophet Musa or Prophet Nuh on his way back. Prophet Nuh on his way back, Prophet Noah would ask him, how many prayers did God ask you to do? And Prophet Muhammad goes 50. He goes, go back to God. He gave you too many. Your people won't be able to keep up. And he kept doing that until it became 5 prayers a day instead of 50. And then
Wajiba.
And then, yes. And then, even then, Prophet Noah was like, by the way, your people still can't do it. He goes, oh, I'm too ashamed of going back to Allah and asking him to cut to even more. I've asked too much. He goes, okay, So he goes back to Mecca, and then Al Aqsa Mosque became the first Qibla. Qibla is the direction you pray toward if you're a Muslim. So if you're asking what is the importance of the Aqsa Mosque, it was the first holy site of Islam, and therefore it was the first Qibla before Mecca was the Qibla, and it's considered one of the three most holiest sites in Islamic history, which is Mecca, Medina, and Al Aqsa Mosque, which is the significance of that place to Muslims.
So as you can see, I mean, if something like this were to happen where they just take it over, or worse, remember I said there's that Temple Mount Faithful group there? They have a lot of influence now. They're extremist right wingers. They want to raise that place, destroy it completely, and build the third temple of Israel on it. And Netanyahu has met with these people, seen the models. There's photographs of it. Go Google third temple. On a lighter note, I want to end this by showing you some of my holiday photos when I was in Israel staying at the Sephardic Hotel. Here are some of the other guests who stayed at the Sephardic Hotel. This area right in front isn't in front of the hotel. This is in the middle of the hotel. This is from left to right. Lawrence of Arabia, Colonel T.E. Lawrence, Emir, soon to be King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, the man who Lawrence said, "Bring me Lawrence. I want Lawrence." He thought it was a weapon system. It was actually that guy. This is General Allenby of the famous Allenby Bridge that crosses across the Jericho River. You want to get to Jordan, you got to walk across the Allenby Bridge from the Israeli checkpoint to Allenby. This is 1920. That's just the inside of area. And this is another photo of King Abdullah. Well, Emir Abdullah, they called him in those days, his senior staff. And this Churchill guy, right? 1921. This is the next year, Winston Churchill and the colonial secretary from London, Herbert Samuel, who is the high commissioner for the Mandate of Palestine, as you can read in there. And there were some other people here, Lord Plummer and all of his senior staff. All of these people stayed in this, what's called the Spanish House or the Sephardic House in Old Town Jerusalem in the Jewish Quarter, right? Needless to say, there were some good-ass folks who've been there who changed the world's history and set off a century or more of warfare. Hundreds of thousands of people have died because of those guys. So I had breakfast in the same room as T.E. Lawrence. An honor? Not quite sure. So, okay, let's end on that note, Wajeeh. That's holy war. And I think we should take this up. Hopefully that story dies and nobody hears it in the Muslim world. Because if that story gets out, man, they ain't never signing that MOU. What do you say?
I think the United States and Israel is so desperate at the moment. Arab leaders and Muslim leaders can tell how desperate the United States and Israel is. The United States and Israel are digging their own graves with their own hand and shooting their legs at the same time. This is worst case scenario happening all together. All of the case scenario, every time we could have had best case scenario, we had worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And that's specifically because when you say it a lot, coincidence take a lot of planning, and dumb decisions take no planning. What takes you decades to build takes you only 30 minutes to destroy. And it seems like to me that every day, if not every hour of this presidency, history is repeating itself in a bad way.
You know what? It's like somebody sits around and goes, we haven't fucked things up enough. What could we do to fuck things up more? Right? They have this belief that they are these masters of the universe, and they may be sending things into a awful, awful situation. I'm just going to go through one or two questions and comments. Oh, shit. Gotta go. I forgot I got to do the Stephanie Miller radio show. Please like and subscribe. Malcolm Nance. I forgot that show was on an airplane yesterday. You guys can hear me on Stephanie Miller on Free Speech Television or WCPT 820 Radio from Chicago on TuneIn if you want to hear me now. See you all tomorrow. I'll answer your questions on Substack.
Bye.
Bye.